The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Stephen Sakach here with Tullio, Siragusa, and Maher. Today, we're continuing our series on purpose. We talked about defining purpose and living by it a couple episodes ago. Last episode, we got into taking that purpose outward with your marketing. And we went over some good examples of how some well-known marketing campaigns did this really quite well. We also mentioned using the AI Chief Marketing Officer tool for bringing that purpose to your customers. And today, we want to go through some examples of how that tool can work for small businesses in bringing your purpose out to the world. Right now, there's still a wait list to get on the AI Chief Marketing Officer at aicmo.io. As mentioned, depending on when you hear this podcast, it may be live. We did a private beta launch to our clients yesterday by the time this airs, but it will be publicly available to everyone once we get through this process. Some of the tools in there help you define your purpose and come up with creative marketing ideas around that purpose. And today, we really wanted to focus on small businesses to help them with this task. We gave a lot of examples last episode from large household names with big budgets and large ad agencies and marketing staffs. But what can you do if you're a small to mid-sized business and you have none of that? What if you're an owner-operator, wearing all the hats of a small business owner, getting pulled in all directions, and you want to build that higher purpose and meaning into your business through your marketing? That's what we want to tackle today. But first, hey guys, remember that episode where we were talking about if you could eat anywhere in the world? I think it was our show on getting beyond small talk to authentic connections. I asked the question, if we could eat anywhere in the world, where would it be? And guess what happened for me? I got to eat at Shakespeare's Pizza with my son, because if it was in Missouri, and that meant I would be with my son. And so, well, my son got married last week and we flew out there, and this is what we had for our first dinner. And I thought back to the show. I was sitting there. I'm like, wow, I'm actually going to be fully in the moment of this, because it was like, we mentioned it prior. And so it was like goal setting almost, and a mindfulness practice sort of coming together for me. And I'm just sitting there. Hey, we mentioned this. I'm doing it. So obviously, it's hard to stay in the moment. And that's kind of the advice I gave to my son and his daughter-in-law too, prior to their wedding. I'm like, hey, I got this advice on my wedding day. Make sure you try and stay in the moment, because it can go by super fast. I remember one point, in my wedding, we were in the Valley in Los Angeles in August, and it was 106 degrees, and we were outside, and I'm staring at the minister, and his upper lip is just beaded with sweat. And I'm like, wait, you're not in the moment. Listen to what he's saying here. So yeah, that, hopefully they stayed in the moment there with some of that advice. But us fathers, we got choked up because it got real fast there, especially during that rehearsal dinner when my daughter came walking down the aisle to start things off. I'm like, oh, this is happening. But let's get into the topic today. Guys, what are your general thoughts on small businesses and the importance of leveraging AI? Tullio, what do you think about that?
I'm still thinking about the stay in the moment. I had this vision of when Giuliani's face was melting. I couldn't help but go there. That'd be really hard to stay in the moment with that one. But in any case, so
yeah, thankfully, the ministers, he didn't have any hair dye going on there.
That's good. That's good.
It was gray, white hair.
Okay. All right. What was the question again? See, I got distracted.
What are your general thoughts on small businesses, and the importance of leveraging AI?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like if you go back to the late 80s, early 90s, the question was, what are you thinking about using the internet, being online? And there were a lot of companies that jumped on the bandwagon early, and there were smaller companies that were like, yeah, I don't know, this is not how I do business. I don't know, what's this internet thing? And eventually it became the only way to really get business going today, right? So the whole dynamic of how small businesses marketed themselves or how they represented themselves in the marketplace changed almost overnight. But many of them got caught off guard thinking, I don't need this thing. So AI is similar. Now, it's, how is it similar? I think it's going to be important for small businesses to be able to move faster. It's definitely going to enable them to do that so they can iterate and move faster. They can also understand how to translate their specific customer needs in their specific market places faster and do A/B testing or adaptation and basically adopt to what's going on in the marketplace a lot faster, right? So that's the advantage. You could find yourself behind, just like those who find themselves behind that didn't embrace the internet right away with AI. And you would find yourself behind in terms of how you, for example, messaging that you use for particular customers. AI can help you fine tune those messages. You can infuse empathy into your message, and you can put in dynamics about your customer base, and it can actually come up very quickly with suggestions on how to best market to them. Stuff that you would have to go through trial and errors, over many months today, you can do instantly. So if your competitors and you're a small business, if your competitors are adopting AI, they're going to find themselves at an advantage versus you who may not be. So I think it's an important aspect to not only surviving in the future, but thriving as well.
I absolutely agree. I just want to piggyback off of Tullio as well. It's one thing for us to have that competitive advantage with the output that's going to put out. But I think other challenges that businesses have had, especially small businesses, bringing in a culture and taking some time to invest in that culture. A lot of the challenges they've had in doing that is because everyone's too darn busy. Everyone's got too many things going on, too much admin tasks, too much tedious tasks, copywriting, trial and error, testing, A&B testing. A lot of times, I think the big pain point that businesses have in saying, hey, I would love to introduce a culture. We just don't have the time because we're too busy. Adopting that AI will allow them to have that time to be able to create an authentic culture, right, where we're bringing out authenticity. Now, another element is with that output, when you're picking up and you're seeing people are performing better, now you're making more time for culture. I think we're leaning towards a world where when more people adopt AI, I think authenticity is going to become that much more important. So if you adopt it early on, you're going to get the output. Then you can start focusing on the authenticity. Because what's going to happen is when everyone jumps on, they're going to notice a world where everything just seems AI written and everything just, I feel like that email just came from an AI. And then the fight's going to be who's the more authentic brand? Well, AI is now bringing us into that realm where it's going to be the game of authenticity. But we have to first adopt the output. And I think that's why small business, it's so important for small businesses today to accept that. If they don't, when the competition's crushing you and you don't know why, well, their output's probably 10 times higher, right? So
I think it's also worth mentioning, if you go back to the 80s, Peppers and Rogers were prophesizing about one-to-one marketing. The end goal was to get to that super hyper personalization where you can have a one-to-one relationship with many. And there have been strides towards that, but none of that was truly possible until now with AI. Yeah. So a small business can actually create that village-like feeling that used to exist many, many years ago when we all lived in small villages and we knew each other and knew everybody that sold everything to each other. You can create that. So even from an outwardly perspective, it becomes a component that allows you to enhance your voice, your brand voice. Yeah. Now, internally, we talked about externally. Internally, there's another component to this too. It's about leveling up your team, right? You can have these co-pilots that can help your accounting team be more proficient and better at what they're doing, your customer service teams, and so on and so forth. You can actually use it to enable the teams you have to be even better. And ultimately, the key thing is about self-service. If you look at the entire internet, everybody turned into an employee, right? We all can book our own flights, take care of our own stuff. So it was really about self-service. And the good thing about self-service is it's always consistent because you're the one providing it to yourself. So AI is going to continue to bring that to another level. And ultimately, it's about the experience people want. So it's not about, does it feel AI-ish? It's more about, does this feel personalized to me? And those are going to be the winners who know how to use it to personalize the experience.
Yeah, and I think that AI, like right now, it has some issues, the generative AI that we're talking about, where like Ash said, maybe it sounds very similar or AI-ish sometimes in its tone and things like that. But I think well, you can actually fix that if you know what you're doing with AI, if you're engineering, your questions and things right, and your prompts right. But I do think one of the next levels of AI, probably this summer when it happens, is it will probably take care of some of those issues where it's just gotten so much more powerful. It'll probably also take care of some of like the hallucinations that maybe if people aren't familiar with it, AI can sometimes make things up a little bit right now, the way the generative AI works. It might make up a fact or a quote or something. So make sure you're verifying any sort of fact in there, because yeah, it'll just pull stuff out of nowhere, which is kind of fascinating, but also has gotten some people in trouble who have tried to come into court or something with legal precedents that don't exist. So yeah, people are finding out the hard way that,
according to ChatGPT,
yeah, it's the early days for sure of AI. Tullio, I saw that you had posted a stat on our company Slack about from McKinsey and Company that developers were actually twice as likely to experience happiness and flow in their work when they had generative AI tools. I think with developers, there's a lot of debugging, there's a lot of start and stop work, and generative AI can keep you flowing. I would imagine that there will be some of the similar sort of feelings for any type of work where you've got that start and stop, or that that thinking time where you bring AI into the your process, and now you're keeping that flow going, you're keeping the iteration going. What are your thoughts on that aspect of it?
Yeah, the recent study was very enlightening, because there's always the fear that AI is going to remove jobs, and to a certain degree, it'll shift certain roles, and in some cases, it might actually reduce the dependency on certain skills. But what was interesting is in a co-pilot scenario, because that's ultimately, at least for developers, that's where it's going, right? You have these co-pilots that can, through generative AI, help you develop the code, help you test and QA the code, and it's freeing up the time for developers to do more of the creative and strategic type work. Because the reality is, if you went down into software development, you're a creator, you are an artist, you want to create something. The coding aspect is the mundane part of it, right? So it's like just sitting there at the screen coding all day. That's not a whole lot of fun. What's fun is creating and bringing to life new ideas and strategizing and architecting new ideas. This is why people become a developer. So if you take away all the mundane stuff from it and you give them a co-pilot, and now as a developer, I get to really do what I love, which is to create, to tap into the creative process, and which is why I became a developer. And I would think the similar concept of having co-pilots for different types of skills is going to do the same, whether you're in customer service or you're a marketer. Having a co-pilot that can assist you, that can take away the grunt work or the repetitive or the analysis type of work, which is very time consuming, and not everybody enjoys doing it. Let's face it. Crunching numbers, looking at data, coming up with, that's not everybody's forte. Most people don't like it. Some of us really enjoy getting into the weeds of things. But even those of us who enjoy it like a co-pilot, because it just helps us get it done faster, more efficient, and then we can look at more ideas as well. So I'm not surprised the result of the survey shows that people felt more fulfilled, happier.
I've seen developers. I've seen developers now just do like a flowchart of, this is what I want to do. And they do an image of that, and they load that image up to AI. And it's like, basically, code this up for me. this flow chart, and the AI will come back with coding based on that flow chart. So you definitely get more in that into that conceptual area, and then you can look at the code and you've got it maybe 90% there, and then AI can debug it for you as well.
Well, even if a marketer, writing a copy,
Yeah.
editing a copy, proofreading a copy, making sure you put the commas in the right places, the punctuation in the right place, all the stuff, it's effort and time consuming. And like, if you're a creative type, it's part of the job you have to do, but now you got a co-pilot that does that all for you. So I foresee for sure that study will be applicable in many other areas of business, in helping people just find more joy in their work. Really, when you take away all the stuff they don't want to do and you give it to a machine to do it, then you can focus on the things you enjoy the most, and that's going to be good for everybody.
So those who have already had a collaborative nature, a team effort, way of looking at things, those that are able to actually prompt engineer correctly are able to get that outflow. I think the challenge is that for those who are not in that team effort, don't know how to create instructions, don't know how to prompt correctly, that could be the challenge, because those are the individuals that get replaced. So I see that AI is creating a whole new workforce, and the more collaborative you are naturally, then you're able to create the right instructions and workflow for your AI to do the tasks that you need to do, so you can focus more on the creativity. But if you naturally have never been a creative person or a good team player, that could be the challenge, where AI replaces those individuals, I believe, just because in order for you to be able to get the output you need to be able to correctly prompt the same way you prompt someone or give them context into what you need them to do. And AI is allowing people to do that. So I see a whole new workforce being developed here, a new type of employee, and those that early adopt, they're going to look like superhumans until things start to hit equilibrium,
Yeah, I think for small businesses, you're going to have that. Suddenly you've got these employees who can 10x themselves or 100x themselves, depending on what the task is with AI. I mean, that's just a huge advantage for a small business. Suddenly your, one person marketing staff looks like a 5-person, marketing staff with that output, and you'll be able to do some things you wouldn't have been able to do. Additionally, I think we talked about this, I think, in a few episodes ago. AI is going to democratize things so that, it's going to bring this expertise in there that people may not have had before. And now you're going to have this at your fingertips. This is one of the goals of the AI chief marketing officer. It's to help leverage that expertise. You don't know what you don't know. And now you've got these techniques used by, 100 different people that you wouldn't have even thought of. It's just kind of right there at your fingertips. Hey, use this technique for this email or for this ad copy. And I think, so if you're that person that has this, the multiple hats as a small business, one thing is that your time is limited, and ideally, you can outsource to an agency to handle things for you. But maybe you can't even do that. But this is where AI has that tremendous advantages. Things that used to take hours can take minutes. You'll be able to 10x your production and output, like Ash mentioned. That doesn't mean, you need to become an AI expert or prompt engineer. I think now we're kind of in that wave of tools coming along that are doing that for you. In fact, I know most people who are engaging with AI right now, whether it's on ChatGPT or Bing or Anthropic or Google, they're doing it on a very basic level. And I suspect, like I mentioned, that next version of ChatGPT that comes out, this will improve some of that for people. But for now, I think a lot of people, the results have kind of been so-so a little bit. They see the speed, they see the potential there, but they don't want to be like you said, Ash, earlier, like, oh yeah, this sounds like it's AI. And, you've got all these companies that sort of sound like AI. But there are a lot of tools now out there that are developed by AI engineers, and they're getting better at what they're doing. And if you're a small business and you have limited resources, it's like, what are you waiting for? Right?
Yeah.
Find some AI tools and get going. The early adopters are going to have a huge advantage over their competitors. And I think For mid-sized companies, it's kind of interesting because I do think they're probably moving a little slower. They know they've got to do it, but they aren't sure how to integrate all these bigger processes and things. And you'll see a chief AI officer kind of position come along, trying to, get everyone involved in AI, but that position will probably eventually go away because every department will be like, yeah, no, we know our department. We now know AI. But just trying to move those bigger businesses toward AI, I think is maybe even a harder push sometimes versus a small business where you can be nimble and quick with what you're doing.
And also, I mean, I love the prompt engineer thought. I mean, that goes back to how do you avoid it from sounding AI-ish? I mean, a good prompt engineer will know how to prompt the system so that it can produce the right outcome. And to your point, Stephen, most people are just using the very basic version of it, but there's so much you could do. But it ultimately comes down, I think, to staying on point with your purpose as a business, which is what we've been talking about, right? And how AI can help you stay on purpose. So it's not about how do I use it? It doesn't replace anything, as it is, where are my gaps within my team that I need help with? Do I have, good plannings in place? Does my team collaborate well? Are they consistent in how they handle customer inquiries? Does someone have a higher close ratio than someone else? All these factors, which come down to just good diligence in running your business, stuff you should be doing now, regardless of AI, understanding every element of your business and being able to measure every element of your business. AI will help to say, okay, where are my gaps? How can I leverage AI to help me there? Maybe there's some training that I can develop with it for my team. Maybe there's some prompts that I can develop for my customer service team, or to level them up. Or maybe there's just some analysis that it can help me do to give me insights on new ideas. Even like, for example, one of the biggest challenge for not necessarily small businesses, but bigger companies, post M&A integration, bringing all the brands together on a single brand voice. That's not easy work. It's extraordinarily challenging. And we actually tested AI CMO with to come up with some ideas for like internal operational ideas on how to bring the various brands together. And I was blown away because I've done a number of post M&A integration. It's hard work. And in minutes, it came up with all these ideas on how to have peer-to-peer groups, on, having these sort of team efforts. Like, it came up with a list of all these various activities that you ought to be doing as a business to bring the multiple brands together. It had nothing to do with the brand voice or how to market yourself. It had everything to do with operationally how to get a good, effective post M&A integration going. And that stuff, again, that's stuff that helps you speed up and to stay on point with your purpose, because there's the things you have to do, on a day-to-day basis to keep running your business. And then there's the things you ought to do, which is about staying on purpose. So if AI can help you stay on purpose more, which is why you started your business to begin with, right? You had a purpose you wanted to accomplish, but sometimes that gets lost. You just get caught up in the minutia of the day-to-day. AI can help with the minutia so you can stay on purpose. I think that's one of the biggest benefits to small businesses that AI is going to contribute to, is helping them stay on purpose.
So absolutely. Go ahead.
I was going to say, let's talk about that purpose. We've teased about it at the beginning of the show. Let's dive in a little bit. So I want to start by taking a sample of that we sort of a made up small business and tying its purpose statement to our AI CMO to produce some concept ideas. Okay. So again, this tool is at aicmo.io. Get on the wait list if you can. The great thing about AI, obviously, it's just so fast, right? It's stuff that might take you hours. It's going to brainstorm ideas that in just minutes, if that, maybe even under minutes or seconds. So let's start with a made up business. This will be a local nursery. All right. And so the nursery purpose statement that I've got here is to inspire healthy, beautiful communities by connecting people and plants. All right, a good, solid purpose statement. So the tool is going to use these guidelines based on various other successful campaigns. I won't go into the secret sauce here, but we wanted to be able to come up with similar ideas from successful purpose-driven campaigns or emotionally connecting campaigns. So our focus here is getting your purpose into your marketing campaigns. So let's go through some of these concepts that the tool came back with. So I ask it for this nursery, give me some video campaign ideas. Here's the purpose. Let's see what it comes up with. So the first one it came up with is the wisdom of growth, an intergenerational campaign where grandparents share their gardening wisdom with younger generations, emphasizing the knowledge transfer that occurs when hands are deep in the soil. I love this one. I like the concept of grandparents and younger generations. I have a memory of that son of mine who just got married when he was about 4 years old, helping his great grandparents with some gardening. So this concept has substance to me to begin with. But I like also how it's, as a nursery, you're leveraging these experts who have been doing this for a long time and passing that along to the younger customer. And then there's this beautiful connection there that you're probably a lot of ways to elaborate on this with video or even imagery. What are you guys thought on this wisdom of growth concept it came up with for this nursery?
It sounds very rich. It's got ancestral value. It's noble. It brings the old world into the new world. It just has a lot of heart. I could visualize it where it would be very touching. And if you don't have a green thumb, it might inspire to become, someone with a green thumb. So it's got that kind of power associated with it. So I want to have that experience. And ultimately that's the most effective campaigns, when you just come out feeling like, I want that experience.
To piggyback off of what Tullio just shared as well, it's that feeling of when I was hearing it, the vision in my head of seeing that experience. It brings out that emotion. It felt like it really understood who the customer base is and took an element of, hey, this is emotionally compelling. And it was when you're able to hear something and play it in your head in terms of a visual, it really hit home for me there, right? So I'm like, that's very powerful. But the fact that I was able to connect those dots, that was within minutes. That's crazy. I mean, people take months. I know there was a brand agency. I spoke to one of our clients. He said, Ash, I hired this brand company to make me a logo. It took them 6 months to put this entire story together for me of what my brand is supposed to be like. And that just came out in minutes.
Yeah, less than minutes, actually. It was just but it got that connecting people and plants part of that purpose into that concept. Let's go. Another one it came up with was planting smiles. Profiles of customers whose lives have been improved by incorporating more greenery into their lives with an emphasis on wellness and mental health benefits. I like the wellness and health angle that also ties to their purpose. The tagline is simple, planting smiles. I could see that, using that in 100 different ways, right? In all your advertising. So that was simple and to the point, and I could see that one really working well. And it does evoke kind of a feeling in you. What are your thoughts on the planting smiles you came up with?
Well, I thought it was really cool, but I think the part that was really interesting is that it took the mental health and wellness angle. That is something I'm sure people recently have started researching into the benefits of mental health of getting into planting. And it just understands that in 2024, 2023, I mean, this is a big topic. I mean, the last 3 or 4 years, I think mental health has been a big topic. So the fact that it took that angle and it had that awesome slogan, that's crazy to me. That's wow. That's some deep research that it did within minutes.
But it also has something really powerful. I mean, it's a known fact that sometimes you build a brand and it sounds similar to some other brand that has tremendous recognition because you want to sort of ride that coattail of that success. This reminded me of Coca-Cola. It's like something that would spark an instant sort of like similarity, Coca-Cola, happiness. That was the whole the whole commercial, their whole pitch, right? And it was extraordinarily successful. So so brilliantly, it's again selling a feeling. I want to be smiling. So it's a very powerful way to empathetically connect to what really matters. It's not about planting the plants, yes, but it's all about the experience, the smile. And even the previous one, it reminded me of this sort of passing the baton idea, right? The younger generation sometimes very upset with the parents for not taking care of the planet, but it connects to the older generation that was taking care of the planet by planting. So there's a little bit of the passing the baton. So all these things can conjure, and that's just hearing about it. We haven't even seen the visuals, right? So pretty amazing how in seconds it could come up with something so compelling that connects your heart, and ultimately that's the whole goal.
Yeah, and I think so. Yeah, the idea of the tool is to come up with these ideas like that have this sort of substance, and then you take them to other parts of the tool where you, like you said, you get more of the fleshing out of the campaign where you can go into the exact ad copy or the visuals and things like that. So that's where it gets really moving. Let's do one more for this nursery, and then we'll move on to a different type of company. The next one was Bloom With Us, a campaign that celebrates community of garden enthusiasts who frequent the nursery. Ads showcase customer testimonials about the joy of meeting fellow plant lovers and learning from each other's experience. I thought this really tied in that community angle that the purpose talked about really well, and I could almost just visualize seeing these testimonials in this sort of communal, gathering of people just talking about it. I think that would go really well and bring that whole community feeling into this particular nursery. What are your thoughts on this one?
Again, it's a feeling, right? Who doesn't want to feel connected to something greater than themselves and be part of something that is that has some meaning? So the sense of community, belonging, connectedness, and we live in a time where everybody's just busy in their phones. So the conjuring of actually being with people in person and having a vehicle to facilitate that, all through the love of planting, for the green thumb of the planet, I think is so powerful. And again, it's going to resonate with certain types of people that these things matter to them. We talked about in one of the previous shows about some of the great examples like Whole Food, for example, right? The people who are dedicated to nurturing the planet, automatically those customers are going to levitate to that message, right? So it's not like you're trying to find new customers. You're just trying to make it possible for those who already live with that purpose to connect with you as supporting what they already live with. And that's the key thing in terms of small businesses being purpose-driven. You're not trying to sell anything. You're just trying to invite people that are already doing that and letting them know that you're part of that, and they want to extend you as part of their community. And that's the feeling that this generated, is like we're an extension of the community you already want to be part of, and we're going to enhance that community for you. So it's super powerful, super powerful. I can't believe AI would come up with that instant. I mean, this is like months and months of thinking and strategy. If you're working for an agency, this is not easy stuff,
No, I have to piggyback on that too, because that's 3 different marketing angles, 3 different messages for individuals where, for example, we mentioned mental health might be important to them. Connection might be important. That passing of the baton might resonate. 3 different messages, all these different types of human beings that take information in differently and have different things that are important to them. But Tullio, to your point, to craft those messages and to understand those customers in every angle and create that takes months. That was done within minutes. Which is
within
insane.
minutes, and it had seconds. Within seconds, and
get it right.
It had another 5 ideas too that I didn't even put on here just because
5 more ideas.
But yeah, no, I mean it did take months for us to come up with the tool, but part of all rather. But literally minutes to. So let's so those are great. I especially like that intergenerational one. I think that angle. Let's do another. And I think one of these is going to tie into a point you just made, Tullio, and I'll try and circle back to it. But so this next small business we added in here, I made up of a vintage secondhand store with its purpose. So in some ways, this is like almost like a general store. So it's in some ways very tricky to differentiate, right? Because you've got all kinds of things going on there, a little bit of everything. Might be hard to set yourself apart. So I thought this might be a good example. And I didn't use a thrift store because that's kind of often associated with a charity, and that might be just too easy for us, right? That'd be like a pretty straightforward purpose. And so I didn't say thrift store. I said vintage secondhand store. So here's some results running this through our tool just once. I put the purpose as to upcycle and give new life to used items that might end up in a landfill. So that was just the quick purpose I came up with there. And you don't have to say that in your ads, right? That can be, but you want your ads to sort of be true to that purpose, right? You don't need to be, this doesn't need to be that purpose-driven, very specific charity type cause type of thing to have a purpose-driven marketing campaign. This can just be true to your purpose. So first one here is rediscover rustic charm. Focus on the beauty of rustic pieces in making a house feel like a home. Feature customer stories of transforming spaces into heartwarming havens using items found. So I could see this working well on social, encouraging people to kind of share, how these items that they found in the store and where they put them in their home. And it has a really nice opportunity for that visual element. What are your guys' thoughts on this one?
It's storytelling. I mean, it's one of the most effective marketing tools on the planet. And I mean, we all love stories. And so there's a story element to it. It's like rustic, vintage, make your house a home. There's a whole story behind it. I can see the visuals of someone coming to visit and seeing something, and it turns into a whole conversation piece. And there's a story behind that piece. And so it inspires connection and communication. So the feeling I'm getting is, I get to create warmth in my home, and I get to have something that is worthy to talk about, and I did something good too, where it didn't end up in the landfill. I recycled something or reused it. So there's so many elements to that are so powerful in just connecting the heart to this idea of belonging to something greater than yourself, a history. There's an ancestral piece of it. There's a lot of things that resonate very well. Pull at the heartstrings.
Yeah, no, storytelling is probably the most powerful form of marketing. When you think about that emotional compellingness, people listen to stories. And I don't think in marketing today, we're not telling enough stories. I think one of the challenges we have is telling a story is challenging. Sometimes when you start telling a story, it might not sound great the first time. You have to keep iterating it till you get it right. And I think be able to collaborate as a co-pilot with an AI that's able to put that story out, and then you're able to say, oh, wow, this is really good. Let me doctor it up a little bit because I want it to be more of my message. That capability is very, very powerful. But to your point, Tullio, right, as Steve was reading it out, the slogan, I'm like, wow, like I feel like I'm listening to a story. I want to know more. Tell me more about this brand, and the fact that I could just do that so quickly is amazing. But the fact that it's doing it in general is also very powerful for marketers who don't understand that concept. Why is this working for us? Why is it doing what it's doing? Well, psychologically, it resonates with us. We're listening, we're visualizing, it's planted in our head. And as soon as we walk away, we remember. I think that all those factors are coming into play. I think you actually become an enhanced marketer, being able to have this super tool as a co-pilot as you're going across your journey, your professional journey, essentially.
You know what? All these examples, they're very blue ocean strategy type of examples, because it's going to attract those who already play in that, but it also opens the door to those who might have not been hipsters, into vintage, but suddenly, because it feels warm and it has something about it that's like, I want that. Oh, I didn't get that. That makes being a hipster cool if you're not into it, right?
Yeah.
So now it opens up a possibility for someone who might enjoy that, but didn't want to associate with quote unquote being a hipster, and suddenly realizes, oh, it's not just for hipsters. I can use that. I want some of that in my home. I want warmth in my home. So it's got a very, it can have impact beyond just the community that you're trying to sort of associate with. And that makes it that much more powerful, in my opinion, because now you're opening up the door to I mean, look at what was it, Leapfrog? What was that wine, right? They made it super, it was from Australia. They made it super simple to buy wine. It was like cheap, like $8 a bottle. They took away all the complexities of buying a wine. And they were marketing people who would drink the $2.99 a box wine, right? Who maybe wanted to upgrade to something a little better, and possibly people who wouldn't touch wine because it seems so complicated and they just turn to a beer. But now they feel like, oh, wine doesn't have to be like for just the snooty who understand vintages and all this stuff. It's just good to drink it, and it's cheap. For $8, I can get a bottle, right? So they're very much a blue ocean strategy that were very effective at capturing both wine drinkers who drank the cheap wine and also those who drank the more expensive wine, and even those who didn't drink wine. And the same thing with Cirque du Soleil. They attracted the circus goers and the theater goers. They really captured both of those audiences. So these have a lot of those elements where it opens up the door for people that would otherwise not be your clients. So I love it.
Really, do you remember the $2 Chuck at Trader Joe's?
Yeah.
And how that blew up? You know, it was a whole story. Now, I don't think they actually put out, I think it was a story made up in people's heads, but I don't know where the name $2 Chuck came from, because that whole story was created. Charles. The idea of
let's move on to the next one here. All right. Next one is Gently Loved, Newly Adored campaign, conveying the transformation of pre-loved items into cherished possessions once they cross the threshold of a new home, illustrating the cycle of love and nostalgia. I like the Gently Loved, Newly Adored line. And actually, the more I think about it, I like this one. It really softens the sort of used stuff concept, right? And says someone once loved this, and it carries that along to be loved by someone else. So, you know, we were talking about some of our kids' toys the other day with some family members, and what struck out was everyone was happy when they learned that those old toys, they found a new good home. It's like, oh no, yeah, we gave them to this, you know, woman who had 3 kids, and told a little story about that. You know, and so that the kids who are now adults who played with them, you know, they now see that someone else can enjoy them. So I really like this concept of Gently Loved, Newly Adored. And I actually ran this by someone who's experienced in this particular business vertical, and they loved it. This one has substances for sure. What do you guys think?
Well, you know, it reminded me of something you might have lost when you were a kid that you just loved and either broke or you forgot it somewhere. And so it conjures up this idea that you can connect to something that was once loved and can continue to be loved. Like it can find its way in your home the same way your toy might have found its way in somebody else's home who found it because you left it at the park. So it's got this nostalgic sort of childhood like feeling of getting back something lost. And also has, if you've been heartbroken and you feel like you've been discarded somehow, it feels as though, you know, everyone has a home. Even these items will eventually find a home, and someone will adore them. So it gives the sense of hope. I mean, that's sort of what conjured up for me, is these kinds of feelings. So I could see people that are in these mindsets just levitating towards it.
If we cue up this. I was gonna say, if we cue up the Sarah McLachlan Toy Story song right now.
That's what I was gonna say. Toy Story.
People be weeping.
Exactly.
I literally was thinking about the Toy Story, Woody being passed on to the next.
Right.
You know, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's hop on to this next one. This one is interesting. It's not I don't think as good as the other ones, but maybe you guys did. But it says, a treasure trove of memories, inviting customers to explore shelves filled with mementos to promise new memories as treasures meet their new owners, encouraging personal connections through each unique find. I think this one is a little bit generic, but what sticks out to me is how AI zeroed in on one of the key elements of a vintage or secondhand store. It's the treasure hunt part of it. And that's what a lot of people go there for that. And so as a little nuanced in that way on how that AI actually realized this was an angle to go for. What are you guys' thoughts on this one?
I mean, there was an entire market of people, I think, because a lot of content was being put out where they're going out to different garage sales trying to find those items and then showing it off. Like, oh, I found this item. And there's also the people that go drifting. They like to find, cool, thrifting, where they find cool items like to show off as well. It definitely speaks to that. I mean, there's even that Storage Wars show that that it understands that there's an entire market of people who like watching other people find cool things. So the fact that I picked up on that was pretty darn cool, because that's exactly what I thought. I was like, hey, this is speaking to that market of people that not only like finding cool things, but like watching others find cool things. So it kind of speaks to all of that.
I couldn't help but think about the right celebrity or personality for this would have been like Gary V to do this commercial.
Yeah, the garbage something. Yeah.
Only without the language, right? But
right.
Actually, the other visual I had besides that is this idea of something borrowed when someone's getting married. Something old, something borrowed. Like I could see that being a whole market for this kind of thing, which could be, you can corner that space. Where do you go for that, right? Now there's a place you can go for that, right? So it's kind of like, it has a lot of applicability for those who are nostalgic about having a great find,
Yeah.
All right, let's do a couple more here. So this one is, again, we're doing a vintage store and we've got its purpose plugged in here. And so this one is Echoes of Elegance. Spotlight the elegance and timelessness of select premium vintage pieces, connecting the past craftsmanship with today's desire for quality and authenticity. I like this one for a few reasons. One, it focuses on, maybe premium purchases, kind of a, premium vintage pieces that it mentioned. So you could highlight the bigger ticket items and set some expectation with price there. But this lets you compare kind of like these older furnishings to maybe some of those newer particle board furnishings, the cheaper mass produced stuff. And this differentiates you and kind of caters to that specific person. Tullio, you were kind of talking about this before, is there are people out there who, have this desire and that are part of your group and your audience. And what this one is doing, it's almost looking at, in a way, the negative persona. Like it's comparing, it's comparing the today's new pieces and the mass produced stuff almost with someone who's interested in that might be a negative persona for this type of business, right? They want new. They don't want to deal with someone else's used stuff, and it's saying no. Actually, this is we're looking at the past craftsmanship on something, and this quality and this authenticity that went into building this specific sort of thing. So I thought that was an interesting opportunity to hit your right audience with a little bit of that differentiation. What do you guys think of this one?
I think anyone who has vinyls at home and has a really great turntable with an amazing needle on it and some high fidelity speakers and still values the analog sound of music, they listen to that because it has some additional value that you don't get from a digital type music. It's a higher quality of fidelity and detail, and they're willing to deal with the little crackling and popping, which also makes it surreal. So it's individual, and those are usually people that are not cheap. They're trying to, they're not trying to avoid digital. They just actually cost a lot of money to have those kind of vinyl and that kind of equipment. So they value that because it has an artisan feel to it, right? It's quality, and it's this idea of a Mercedes built forever kind of thing, or a Rolex, some classical value. So I can see how those kinds of customers would levitate towards this, and I can see how new buyers would say, I would never buy something old, but that looks like something cool. I connect to something that has quality to it, and I want that, so again, another effective tool on how to attract different types of buyers who are interested in the same experience, having something of quality, having something that is distinguished. It really pulls on the sort of prestige levers, if you will, the desire for prestige, which crosses all generations.
Yeah, and you have to imagine too, it's going straight for those individuals that typically would spend more money, that higher ticket person, right? So I think what's fascinating about this is that it's broke down different angles of messaging and it's speaking to each person, right? No one's being excluded from the market. They're saying there's all these different types of people. There's the Gary V's who are going out there to find their items and put them up on eBay. But then there's those who are real true collectors who will pay the top dollar for something they've been looking for forever and they found it. It's like, wow, it's a pristine condition. I want that. I'm willing to pay whatever it is, even if it's priceless. Take the money. Now, with that said, that's a message that the AI was able to pinpoint and say, hey, I understand your whole market. There's the Gary V's, and then there's that one person who's looking for that vinyl and wants to play it on his vinyl deck. Going back to what we're talking about output, to come up with all those concepts, that deep-rooted research and understanding emotionally of your customer takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and sometimes humans don't get it right. We don't, even no matter how hard we try and how many people we collaborate with, as you've seen in the past, Pepsi being an example of that, when they went out and put that horrible commercial thinking that they were speaking to the riots, when they were like, no, you guys are completely off. Now you have to imagine there was a lot of human beings involved in that planning of that commercial that they immediately said, wrong commercial. Sorry, guys. But to imagine that, to have an AI to think through and be like, hey guys, maybe this is not the best idea. That I can imagine that even solves that problem, because the AI has an ability to understand that customer at a deeper level, because it runs at 100 times the speed. It's connecting dots that we as humans may not be able to.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Look at it realistically. Small business owner, right? You go to the office manager and you're like, okay, make sure you get some ads going so we can get some new customers.
Yeah, literally, it's how it is.
It's like, there's no time to go and
they don't have Don Draper on staff.
Right. Call Don on speed dial and see if you can come up with a strategy for the next 6 months, and we'll be out $2 million. I mean, they're making that's all they maybe make the entire year, if that. So this gives them the ability of being a super big brand with an amazing agency who's an award-winning agency at their fingertip. In seconds, can come up with something so creatively compelling that also guides them in the whole creative process on how to create the copy and everything else, even helps them come up with a schedule for it. I mean, that's priceless. If you're a small business, I don't know how you run your business without this kind of thing. So it goes back to the conversation about AI. This is why you want to adopt AI, because the other small business who does will be ahead of you if you don't. I mean, it's important to capture what you can do. These are great examples of what you can do by leveraging things like AI CMO.
So one more here. So with our tool, you can get more specific about whether it's a social media campaign, display campaign, or video with the same tool. What I like is we just went from, that nursery to the vintage store just like that, right? And it just came up it just switched gears, like Tullio mentioned earlier about that personalization it can do. But you can also say, hey, this is I want this for a specific channel. So I did one here for this same business, and I said, let's just make this one specific for a social channel. So here's one related to that, and its topic is Rustic Tales Told Together, an interactive social media series where followers submit stories or photos of their own rustic decor and discuss the heritage behind them, sparking a community-driven conversation around authenticity and nostalgia. And so this one, is developing. Everyone's probably got, or maybe not everyone, but you've all got something in your house. There's some sort of story behind something, right, that you like to tell every now and then about it. So I can see this one, being really good at eliciting some stories and pictures behind it and building sort of this online discussion around a topic. What do you guys think on this one?
I think it's not only that, but it's also incredibly powerful on how to use social proof in your campaign. And some of these could actually go viral based on the individuals that are going to be contributing that too. So it's a brilliant way to get your customers to be your best advertisers. And there's a pride in doing it too, because everybody likes to tell a story. 3, I have unique pieces of art that are they'll never be done the same again, and that there's a whole story behind all of them. There's actually 4 or 5 pieces in my house like that. So, and I'm proud of it because it's unique. It was something that commission that was made for me, right? So, so there's a story behind those, and everybody likes something unique that they can tell a story on. So this is just an example of now inviting people to provide the social proof and to virally sort of expand on this idea and making it possible for others to want to be part of it. And it's, like anything that viral, it's got the I want that too component to it. So brilliantly done.
All right. So let's, I want to reiterate the importance of making that emotional connection in your marketing and some data behind that. Just so, it's not just, these are feel good stories, but let's actually put some data behind that. Ash, what data do you have on the importance of emotionally connecting with your marketing?
Absolutely. So the effectiveness of emotional content. Ads with purely emotional content perform nearly twice as well as those with only rational content, with a success rate of 31% compared to 16% for rational ads. Who would have thought? Viral potential of emotional content. Let me move to the next one. Customer recommendation. So customers emotionally connected to a brand are more likely to recommend it with a 71% likelihood compared to the average 45%. Sales impact. Ads eliciting above average emotional responses can generate a 23% spike in sales volume. Emotional engagement value. Customers who are emotionally connected to a brand are 52% more valuable than merely satisfied customers. Sharing of emotionally charged videos. Videos that elicit strong emotions are twice as likely to be shared than those that do not. Now, there was one stat I skipped, and as you guys saw, I jumped. It was one about anger emotions, right? And that's something we don't want to try to elicit, but turns out any emotion elicits. So if you could bring out the positive emotions, you could really get some great results. Consumer loyalty and emotional connection. Go ahead. Oh, there's one more last one. A significant 82% of consumers with high emotional engagement will always buy from the brand they are loyal to, highlighting the importance of emotional connections and fostering brand loyalty.
So we've got twice as well performing ads. We've got better word of mouth, more valuable customers. There's one in there that sounded like it breaks through the noise faster, right? And then I think, customer loyalty. And I think you saw that during the pandemic. There are businesses that people cared about. We saw them going the extra mile, for them as customers to help their businesses out. So there are many ways it's important to find that higher purpose and that connecting point. And we're going to keep pushing you toward building those authentic connections. We talked about a lot of ways to walk the walk in this podcast series and build that bliss business. We want to go further another way that you can make emotional connection with your customers and their customer experience. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about surprise and delight, doing that little something unexpected or extra for your customers. So what are we talking about? Imagine like ordering a pair of shoes online and they arrive with a matching pair of socks for free, or something you weren't expecting. The classic, of course, in this is the baker's dozen. This goes back centuries, where you ordered a dozen, but they gave you one extra. So this should be fun. So hope you tune in next time on the Bliss Business Podcast.